Namaste. Welcome, Mary Jane Kasliner, Feng Shui Yoga Lifestyle Master. So today I just want to talk about some of the energy for this month, September. And it's quite interesting because, first of all, we move into a very powerful equinox point, moving to the western portent, which is the autumnal equinox. So from a feng shui perspective, whenever we are dealing with the equinox cross or any energy that's on the cardinal points, it is extremely powerful. We refer to it as the heavenly stems, and the heavenly stems are indicative of pure heavenly chi, quintessence, if you will. And so we get 10 heavenly stems because it is the 5 Chinese elements in their yin and yang polarity. So 5 times 2 equals 10. And 10 is also a metaphor for the way in Taoism. So from that perspective then, we move into other dynamics from a feng shui perspective of what the west portent represents. So in terms of the trigrams, it represents Dui, which is a yin quality. And in terms of nature, it represents the lakes upon the earth. And when we gaze down into the surface of the lake, it takes almost this glass-like sensation or feeling or look, and we can see the reflection of the sky. And so Dui has an open line or a yin line at what we call the heavenly point. So it's closest to heaven, representing the youngest female, so closest to birth. This energy of metal, which is the element, it falls within the yin quality because September is the month of the rooster, and the rooster has only one element to it, and it is metal, and it's yin metal. So yin metal is more pliable, it's malleable, and so when it comes to our viewpoint and our opinions, we can be a little bit more pliable with that, which is really, really important, especially because this quality within this portent also represents our intuition. And so with that, we tap into the 6th chakra, Anjana, and in Sanskrit, that represents or means command. So this becomes literally our command center. And the rooster, which is the archetype symbolism for the month of September, there are many qualities about the rooster, but 2 come out to the forefront in particular. And it is understanding your truth, which we gain access to that through the third eye portal. And through that access of our truth, we tap into how to lead. So perhaps you'll say, well, I'm not in a leadership position, I'm not leading groups of people, what have you, and that's all well and good. But the universe calls us all to lead our own life. So to go from one point to the next, we must use that quality of leadership, okay? And to really lead, you need to be authentic, and that authenticity comes through the higher realms of that 6th chakra. So it's being able to tap into higher levels of consciousness, which that is imprinted within our DNA. So we do have that access to tap into the higher levels of consciousness. It's just a matter of awakening that and remembering it. So these are important qualities thus far for the month of September. Now, when we take a look at in terms of the portent still with feng shui, not only it is in nature the lakes, but it also represents the quality of how we create our creative abilities. And for all of us, they come in different ways. But what's most important about how we create is that we should come from it through the eyes of a child. So if you ever watch a child at play, there is this innocence and this inhibition. It's just, they have right at it. There's nothing holding them back. And that is where we need to come from, that perspective. So if you're not quite sure, spend a little time at a park and perhaps just watch children at play. Or if you have a child, or you have a niece or a nephew, it behooves you to spend a little time and see how children operate, because we can learn a great deal from that. From another perspective, you can take a look at your own environment and look in particular at the west portent within your home or outside your home. And you want to make sure that you are incorporating the qualities of the element of earth, which is a very grounding and stable element. So earthy tones, stone qualities, whether in the tiling of floor or accent pillar pieces that are in stone or statues. You can do that as well. Your square shapes, your rectangular shapes, your plaids, these are all things that incorporate the element of earth, which will naturally build the quality of metal. The reason why I'm leaning a little bit more towards using the quality of earth is because if we look at the doshas, we're going to be moving into the quality of vata. And vata is air. And so air is nondescript. You know, we can't see air. We equate it lots of times with the wind. And because of that, we can kind of get swept up into the wind, if you will. And when that happens, and because air is nondescript, we can feel a little clouded in our thoughts. So we can feel like we're getting a little overwhelmed because we can't quite put things together in an organized fashion. So the best thing to do then is to use the quality of earth to ground us. So from a yoga perspective, there are a couple of poses that you can infuse within your practice, or if you don't have time to do a full yoga practice, at least you can do a couple of these poses which will help to ground you and ground that air quality or that vata, okay? So let's get right to it, some of the poses. So I'm going to stand up here, and one of the first poses that is very grounding for us is tree pose or Vrikshasana. So with tree pose, we'll go ahead and anchor down through the roots or the padas, your feet, and really allow the energy of the earth cycles, which they begin to pulsate with the alpha brain waves. So it's a very healing kind of quality, and also a very anchoring one. So if we anchor down in, let's say, I'll anchor down the right side here. You want to plug in all four corners of the feet, really feeling the padas grabbing into the earth here. In this case, my mat and the ground beneath it. And then pull up on the right quad here. So you want to pull up the earth channel, the stomach meridian, and really hug muscle to bone here. So you may want to even take your hands to the aces or the hip points here and make sure that they're broadening and are leveled out. There's going to be a natural lifting of the spine or the sushumna out of the pelvic area here to rise up, lengthening through the back of the neck, right up through the crown chakra, chakra. So you can go ahead and take an assist, the left sole of the foot, inner seam of that right leg here. Again, broaden through the aces points, and you can just lay the prayer over the heart center, the sternum getting long. Tuck the belly a little bit back towards the back spine, and broaden out through collarbones and the base of your skull here. So Vrikshasana tree pose is a very, very grounding pose to go ahead and take during the season of Vata that is coming upon us. Another pose, obviously you would do both sides. So when you're taking your own practice, you would go ahead and take the other side here. And for a few breaths before you come out of it. Another pose that is very grounding is Virabhadrasana 2, so Warrior 2 pose here. And when you come into this pose, it's important to be mindful of the front knee aligning over the ankle. And there's a slight external rotation, so that knee is tracking a little bit more towards the pinky side of that left foot. I've got the left leg in front here. And then as you begin to look to the back foot, you want to make sure you're really anchoring it into the earth again, but you want to get it a little buoyant on the inner arch of that back foot. So the whole line of the Sushumna, or the pranic tube, is going to run perpendicular to the earth here. Going to get long through this column, so sacrum to crown, rising up. A little shift of the right rib cage back, so we're not moving too far forward. The arms lengthening out, front to back, a softening underneath the arms into the armpit, so we get a little bit of the heart meridian working. Hugging muscle to bone. Go ahead and squeeze the perineum. The belly can move up and back, and again, I'm broadening through the collarbones and the occipital protuberance, or the base of your skull. So Virabhadrasana 2 is also a fabulous pose for grounding. Another pose that bodes well, and I'm just going to circle my way down here and step back into downward facing dog. So Adho Mukha Svanasana. The knees can be soft, the hips will elevate a little bit higher here, and then begin to plug in. So you're going to feel the hastas and the padas, hands and feet, melting into the earth. Again, a little buoyancy, inner arches, heels moving back and down. Hip points are level and the hips are light. So we're actually defying gravity here, because the hips, which have a slower waveform, are now moving up into the higher frequencies. So we get this natural reversing of the downward flow of Apana to actually work its way up through the gate of the heart. And then the head is heavy, sides of the neck are long, sides of the body are long here. And as we dip the chin towards the heart, we get a Jalarabandha lock here. So we actually get a full Madhat seal. So downward facing dog is a really great pose to ground out here. I'm just going to come back down to the earth. Another pose that bodes really well this time of year, I'm going to slide my feet around and remove a little bit of the fleshy part from under the sitting bones here, is Paschimottanasana. It's actually a west-sided pose, so it works really great for this time of year, since we're moving into the autumnal equinox, or that west portent here. So again, you want to hug the muscle to the bone here, really activate the stomach meridian here. Get long again through the Sushumna, so the spine is lifting up and out of the pelvic region here. A natural broadening of the collarbones, base of the skull here. And as the arms lift up, you want to feel the humerus, or the upper arm bone, move and plug into the shoulder socket here. Belly hugs in. On the exhalation, as you hinge through those hips, there's a nice thinning through the hips, or we call thinning through the cliches, so we can end that self-sabotage, right? And then lift the belly into the back spine a bit here and create space for the heart to lay down. And you can actually tuck your way right in here. Paschimottanasana. So this is also very grounding. You can see we're very close to the earth in this pose as well. And the back body, which is normally taking into the dark, is now moving its way up towards the light, right? So, and then we have a folding in. So there's that nice inner consciousness where we can float through that third eye for that intuition and to tap into the truth and leadership, which is part of that rooster energy. And I'll give you one more pose to close out with. Always a nice pose to close with is your Shavasana, or corpse pose. So as you come down to the earth here, one of the things in Shavasana that you want to remember is to tuck the shoulder blades underneath, so you've got a lifting of the heart here. And this will gently open the arms out to the sides. The palms are open. You can spread the legs a little bit here and just allow the feet to roll out here. So again here, you're very close to the earth, and there's that nice stable connection. I'm just going to roll up and out of that pose. So those are just a few poses that you can infuse into your day on a daily basis, and you can just take a few breaths in each of those poses. Obviously, when you are doing tree pose, Vrikshasana, or Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2, you want to make sure you're doing both sides, so you're balancing your practice. So have a little fun with it. Begin to ground your energy, because things might get a little bit flighty as we continue through this month of September. Namaste.